hypothesis stands up in all situations, and if not, whether the exceptions can be sufficiently explained without changing the hypothesis. One of the simplest forms of such, quote, natural experiments, unquote, are enquetes using long and open-ended questionnaires and or personal interviews with selected representatives from certain groups such as age or occupational groups, prisoners, hospital inmates, and so forth. The use of the conventional battery of psychological tests is, in my opinion, not sufficient for the understanding of the deeper layers of the character. A simple example demonstrates this. A behaviorist maxim that observable behavior is a scientifically reliable datum is simply not true. The fact is that behavior itself is different depending on the motivating impulse, even though on superficial inspection the difference may not be visible. A simple example demonstrates this. Each of two fathers with different character structures spanks his son because he believes that the child needs this kind of punishment for the sake of his healthy development. The fathers behave in what seems to be an identical manner. They slap their children with their hands, yet if we compare the behavior of a loving and concerned father with that of a sadistic father, we find that the behavior is in reality not the same. Their way of holding the child and of talking to the child before and after the punishment, their facial expression make the behavior of one quite different from that of the other. Example, bad, or, I'm sorry, so the facial expressions, correspondingly the children's reaction to the respective behaviors differ. The one child senses the destructive or sadistic quality of punishment. The other has no reason to doubt his father's love. All the more so because the single instance of the father's behavior is only one among innumerable behaviors the child has experienced before and which have formed his picture of his father and his reaction to him. The fact that both fathers are the conviction that they are punishing the child for his own good makes hardly any difference, except that this moralistic conviction may obliterate such inhibitions as the sadistic father may otherwise have. On the other hand, if the sadistic father never beats his goat, perhaps because he is afraid of the wife or because he is against his progressive ideas of education, his non-violent behavior will produce the same reaction because his eyes convey to the child the same sadistic impulse that his hands would do in beating him, because children are generally more sensitive than adults. They respond to the father's impulse and not to an isolated bit of behavior. Or let us take another example. We see a man who shouts and has a red face. We describe his behavior as, quote, being angry, unquote. If we ask why he is angry, the answer may be, quote, because he is frightened, unquote. Why is he frightened? Because he suffers from a deep sense of impotence. Why is this so? Because he has never dissolved the ties to mother and is emotionally still a little child. This sequence is, of course, not the only possible one. Each of these answers is, quote, true. The difference between them lies in that they refer to ever deeper and usually less conscious levels of experience. The deeper the level to which the answer refers, the more relevant it is for the understanding of his behavior. Not just for the understanding of his motivations, but for recognizing the behavior in every detail. In a case like this, for instance, a sensitive observer will see the expression of frightened helplessness in his face rather than only the rage. In another case, a man's obvious behavior may be the same, but the sensitive awareness of his face will show hardness and intense destructiveness. His angry behavior is only the controlled expression of destructive impulses. The two similar behaviors are in fact quite dissimilar, and aside from the intuitive sensitivity, the scientific way of understanding the differences requires the understanding of motivation, as in of the two respective character structures. I have not given the customary answer, quote, he is angry because he has been or feels insulted. Such an explanation puts all the emphasis on the triggering stimulus but ignores that the stimulus's power to stimulate depends also on the character structure of the stimulated person. A group of people confronted with the same stimulus will react differently to it according to their characters. A may be attracted to the stimulus. A may be attracted to the stimulus. B repulsed. C frightened. D will ignore it. Buss is, of course, perfectly right in stating that intent is a private event that may or may not be capable of verbalization, but this is precisely the dilemma of behaviorism, because it has no method for examining unverbalized data. It has to restrict its investigations to those data that it can handle, which are mutually too crude to lend themselves to subtle theoretical analysis. Interesting.